What if I told you the person you trust the most could be the one quietly destroying your life, and you wouldn't realize it until it was almost too late? Mark never thought that sentence would apply to him. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't naive. He wasn't desperate for connection. He was normal, 36 years old, mid-level analyst at a logistics firm in downtown Chicago. Quiet apartment on the 12th floor with a view of the river. A handful of close friends he'd known since college. No scandals. No secrets. No enemies. Or at least, that's what he believed. Every Friday evening, like clockwork, Mark met the same people at the same bar, a cozy place on the corner of 3rd and Maple, where the lighting was warm, the music was low, and the bartender already knew their names. Daniel, Chris, Lena, and sometimes Adam. They had survived breakups together, job losses, promotions, moves, weddings, divorces, and even a funeral or two. They had history, and history, Mark believed, meant safety. He used to say, half-jokingly, if you've seen someone drunk, broke, and heartbroken, and you're still friends, that's real loyalty. Everyone laughed. No one argued, because it sounded true, and Mark built his entire sense of security on that idea. That's what made what happened next so devastating. That Friday started like any other. Mark left work at 5:42 p.m., stopped by the grocery store to grab a six-pack of Daniel's favorite IPA, and arrived at the bar at exactly 6:15. Lena was already there, scrolling through her phone. "Where's Daniel?" Mark asked. He texted. "Running late," she said. Said traffic was insane. Mark nodded. Daniel hated being late. It stressed him out. He used to apologize if he arrived even 3 minutes after the agreed time. But tonight, 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then 20. Chris showed up. Still no Daniel. "Strange," Chris said. "He literally lives closer than all of us." Mark checked his phone. No message. No missed call. Then, at 6:43 p.m., Daniel walked in. But something was off. His jacket was unzipped, though it was cold outside. His eyes looked tired, but not the normal kind of tired. More like he hadn't slept, or hadn't wanted to sleep. "Sorry, guys," Daniel said. "Long day." He slid into a seat and immediately pulled out his phone. Mark noticed that. Daniel never did that. He always made a point of putting his phone face down on the table and saying, "Real people first." Tonight, his phone stayed in his hand, and it kept vibrating. Soft buzzes. Every few minutes. Daniel glanced down at the screen, typed quickly, then locked it again. Mark watched, not suspiciously, not consciously, but his brain logged it. That's the funny thing about instincts. They whisper long before they scream. "Everything okay?" Mark asked casually. Daniel smiled. "Yeah, just tired." That smile was too fast, too practiced, too smooth. But Mark let it go, because you don't interrogate your friends. You trust them. That's the contract. They ordered drinks. Conversation drifted from work gossip to weekend plans to a debate about whether remote work was killing creativity or saving mental health. Mark laughed. He nodded. He contributed. But his eyes kept drifting back to Daniel's phone. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At one point, Daniel excused himself to go to the restroom and accidentally left his phone on the table. The screen lit up, just for a second, just long enough. Mark wasn't trying to snoop, but his eyes caught the notification anyway. A green message bubble. 3 words. Did he notice anything? Mark's stomach tightened. Notice what? He stared at the screen, waiting for it to disappear. It didn't. Then Daniel returned and picked up the phone. Mark forced a smile. "Everything okay?" he asked again, this time with a lighter tone, like he was joking. Yeah, Daniel said quickly. "Just work stuff." Mark nodded, but something inside him shifted. Not fear, not anger, just awareness. Like when you're driving and suddenly realize the road looks unfamiliar. Even though you've taken 100 times, the night ended normally. They laughed. They paid the bill. They hugged goodbye. Mark walked home alone, hands in his pockets, breath visible in the cold air. He told himself he was overthinking. He told himself Daniel was stressed. He told himself friends don't betray friends. He told himself everything was fine. And for a few hours, he believed it. The next morning, Mark woke up to a notification from his bank. A charge of $214.73. Merchant, Virex Digital Services. He frowned. He didn't recognize the name. He clicked into the transaction. No memory. No subscription. No purchase. Nothing. He called the bank. "Hi," he said. "I see a charge I don't recognize." They put him on hold. 3 minutes. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. "Sir," the representative said, "this charge appears to be from an online data analytics platform." Mark blinked. "I don't use any data analytics platforms." "Are you sure?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Absolutely." "Well," she replied, "this charge was made using your account credentials." Mark stared at the wall. "My credentials?" "Yes, sir." Mark changed his password immediately. He chalked it up to a breach. Happens all the time, right? Companies get hacked. Databases leak. You change your password. Life goes on. But then, 2 hours later, a package arrived at his apartment. No return address. No company logo. Just a brown box with his name and address printed neatly on the label. He hadn't ordered anything. He brought it inside and opened it. Inside was a brand new external hard drive. High-end. Expensive. Still sealed. Mark sat on the edge of his couch, holding the box. Why would someone send this to him? Wrong address? Mistake? Marketing gimmick? He checked his email. Nothing. No receipt. No confirmation. No explanation. He put the box on the kitchen counter and tried to forget about it. But he couldn't. Later that afternoon, Mark went to work. During lunch, he ran into his co-worker, Jenna, in the break room. They chatted about a meeting that had gone off the rails that morning. Then Jenna said something strange. "Oh, by the way," she said, "I didn't know you work with Horizon Financial." Mark blinked. "I don't." "Yes, you do," she said. "I saw you there last Thursday." Mark laughed. "No, you didn't." "Yes, I did," she insisted. "You were in the lobby. You were talking to someone near the elevators." Mark's smile faded. "I wasn't there," he said. Jenna frowned. "Well, it looked exactly like you." Mark's heart rate increased. Because last Thursday he had been at home. He remembered clearly. He had ordered takeout. He had watched the documentary. He had gone to bed early. He hadn't left the apartment. "Are you sure?" Jenna asked. "I'm sure," Mark said. But now he wasn't. That night, Mark sat at his kitchen table. Laptop open, bills and bank statements spread around him. He reviewed every transaction, every login, every notification. And slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Small charges, logins from unfamiliar devices, password reset emails he never requested. Nothing massive, nothing catastrophic. Just quiet activity, like someone was testing the doors. Seeing which ones were unlocked, Mark felt something cold settle in his chest. Not panic, not yet, but vigilance. He remembered the message on Daniel's phone. Did he notice anything? He shook his head. No, that's ridiculous. You don't accuse your friends based on a half-glimpsed text message. You don't connect unrelated events without evidence. You don't let paranoia destroy relationships. Mark closed his laptop and went to bed. But he didn't sleep. Over the next few days, the strange events continued. Another unfamiliar charge. Another login alert. Another package, this time containing a prepaid phone. Still no explanation. Still no emails. Still no receipts. Mark called the bank again. He froze his credit. He contacted customer support for several services. He changed all his passwords. Twice, then 3 times. And yet, the activity continued. That's when Mark realized something terrifying. Whoever was doing this wasn't guessing his passwords. They already had access. Deep access. The kind you only get if someone gives it to you. Or if someone close to you installs it. Mark started thinking about his apartment. Who had been inside recently? Lena? No. Chris? No. Adam? No. Daniel? Yes. Daniel had been there 2 weeks ago. They had watched the game together, ordered pizza, had a few beers. Daniel had used the bathroom, used the kitchen, charged his phone. At one point, Mark had left the room to take a call. Daniel had been alone with Mark's laptop for at least 5 minutes. Mark remembered that. He remembered thinking nothing of it, because why would he? It was Daniel, his friend, his brother, practically. Mark's stomach twisted. No. This couldn't be it. But he couldn't ignore it anymore. So he did something he never thought he would do. He installed security cameras. One in the living room, one in the hallway, one pointed at his front door. He told no one. Not Lena, not Chris, not Adam, not even Daniel. He wanted to see, not accuse, not confront, just see. 3 days later, it happened. Mark was at work, sitting in a meeting about quarterly performance metrics, pretending to listen while his mind drifted. His phone vibrated. Security app notification. Motion detected in living room. Mark's heart jumped. He excused himself from the meeting and walked into the hallway. He opened the app. The video feed loaded, and there was Daniel, standing in Mark's living room. Mark's apartment. Mark's home. Daniel was not stealing, not searching, not panicking. He looked comfortable, like he belonged there. He walked straight to Mark's desk, sat down, opened Mark's laptop, typed, calmly, confidently, like he had done it before. Mark felt his pulse in his ears. His hands started shaking. He watched as Daniel plugged in a small USB device, then another, then opened several folders, then opened something that looked like a dashboard, charts, numbers, graphs. Daniel's face was serious, focused, not guilty, not nervous, professional. After about 10 minutes, Daniel closed everything, removed the devices, wiped the desk surface with his sleeve, stood up, and left. Mark watched until the door closed. Then he stood there in the hallway at work, phone in his hand, breath shallow, mind racing. His friend wasn't hacking him. His friend was operating him. Mark didn't confront Daniel immediately. He didn't yell. He didn't call. He didn't text. He went back to his desk and sat down. He stared at his computer screen without seeing anything. His thoughts moved fast. Too fast. What was Daniel doing? Why? How long? Who else knew? Who else was involved? Was he in danger? Was this criminal? Was this a prank? Was this some kind of test? No, this was real, and it was deliberate. Mark left work early that day. He went home. He sat on his couch. He stared at the external hard drive, at the prepaid phone, at the empty room, and suddenly, he didn't feel safe in his own home anymore. Not because someone had broken in, but because someone he trusted had walked in. That night, Mark called Daniel. "Hey," he said, trying to sound normal. "You busy?" "No," Daniel replied. "What's up?" "I was just thinking," Mark said. "Do you remember that night you came over 2 weeks ago?" "Yeah," Daniel said. "Game night. Why?" Mark paused. Then he said, "You left your charger at my place." Daniel went silent, just for half a second, but Mark heard it. "Oh," Daniel said. "Did I? I didn't notice." "No worries," Mark said. "I can bring it on Friday." "Cool," Daniel replied. "Thanks, man." They hung up. Mark exhaled. Daniel didn't sound surprised. He didn't sound confused. He sounded careful. Mark knew. Now, he just had to decide what to do. Mark didn't want to go to the police. Not yet. He didn't want to accuse Daniel without understanding the full picture. He didn't want to blow up his life based on partial information. So he did something dangerous. He decided to observe, to gather evidence, to learn the truth quietly. He kept the cameras running. He left his laptop in place. He pretended nothing was wrong. And he waited. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel entered Mark's apartment 4 more times. Always when Mark was at work. Always alone. Always calm. Always methodical. Each time, he accessed the same folders. The same dashboards. The same devices. Mark recorded everything. He saved the footage. He documented timestamps. He tracked activity. He started noticing patterns in the data Daniel accessed. Financial records, location data, communications logs. None of it belonged to Mark personally. It was aggregated, compiled, structured, like intelligence. Mark didn't fully understand what he was looking at, but he knew one thing. This wasn't a scam. This wasn't theft. This was an operation. And he was a part of it, whether he agreed to be or not. One evening, Mark met Daniel for a drink. Just the two of them. Mark wanted to see his face, to hear his voice, to understand who he was really talking to. They sat at the bar, ordered their usual drinks, talked about work, talked about relationships, talked about nothing important. Daniel laughed, smiled, joked. He looked like the same friend Mark had known for years. And that made everything worse. Because now Mark realized something terrifying. The most dangerous people don't look dangerous. They look familiar. They look safe. They look like home. Mark waited until the second drink. Then he said, "Daniel, have you ever lied to me?" Daniel raised an eyebrow. "What kind of question is that?" Mark shrugged. "Just curious." Daniel smirked. "Of course I have. Everyone lies sometimes." Mark nodded. "Have you ever lied to me about something important?" Daniel paused. Just a little longer this time. "Probably," he said. "Why?" Mark stared into his glass. "Because I think someone's using me," he said. Daniel's eyes flickered. "Just for a moment. Using you how?" Daniel asked. "I don't know," Mark replied. "But things are happening in my life that I didn't authorize." Daniel leaned back slightly. "Like what?" "Financial stuff. Data. Access." Daniel took a sip of his drink. "That sounds stressful," he said. Mark looked at him. "You don't seem surprised." Daniel smiled faintly. "I work in security, Mark. People get hacked all the time." Mark's jaw tightened. "I didn't say hacked," he said. "I said used." Daniel's smile faded. Silence settled between them. Heavy, thick, uncomfortable. Mark leaned closer. "Daniel, what are you doing in my apartment?" Daniel froze. For the first time since Mark had known him, Daniel froze. He didn't laugh. He didn't deflect. He didn't joke. He just looked at Mark. And then he sighed. "Where did you hear that?" Daniel asked. "I didn't hear it," Mark said. "I saw it." Daniel closed his eyes. Just for a second. Then he opened them. "Mark," he said quietly, "I didn't want you to find out like this." Mark's heart dropped. "So it's true?" "Yes." Mark clenched his fists. "Why?" Daniel hesitated. Then he said, "Because you were already involved." Mark felt a chill run through his body. "Involved in what?" Daniel leaned closer. "Something bigger than both of us." They left the bar. Not together. Inside Mark's apartment, the lights were off. The city glowed through the windows. "Explain," Mark said. Daniel took a breath. "There's a system," he said. "A system that monitors financial behavior, communication patterns, and digital footprints." "You're not being monitored," Daniel said. "You're being used as a reference point. For someone close to you. Adam." Adam was arrested weeks later. Quietly. No headlines. No names. Just absence. Mark changed. Not broken, but awake. He learned that trust without awareness isn't loyalty. It's surrender. And sometimes the people who sit closest to you are the ones hiding the sharpest knives.